My name is Oscar Hernandez. I'm the commander of the Legion. I took over in 2015. A lot of the veterans that were there were kind of, like Bobby said, they were in a really rundown place, real small. With the only way that I would run is if I asked Bobby to be my adjutant, because he knew the ins and outs. He's been in the American Legion for a very long time. And me and Bobby took charge. We started raising money. We raised about $57,000.
Wow.
And with that $57,000, we had a lot of members come on board that wanted to see a change. They wanted to jump on board with it. So we built a $390,000 facility for $56,000 ourselves.
So volunteer work?
Volunteer.
With volunteer work?
Yes, ma'am. Volunteer work. Volunteer. Like Bobby says, we give a lot back to the community. The Education Foundation alone, every time they have a golf tournament, we are their elite sponsors. We give them $5,000 just for that tournament. We give back to anybody in the community that's in need. If they want to have a benefits sale, we let them have the pavilion for free. We also walk them out a $200 or $100 check. With that, just providing back. We're just a bunch of veterans just still trying to give back to the community. We're still serving.
That's great.
American Legion Post been here since 1932? No, 1928. 1928. And I think we're the oldest one in San Antonio, I mean, this area. There might be another one outside the.
We are the second oldest sanctioned American Legion in Bexar County and the surrounding areas.
Under our commander's leadership and all the volunteers and the whole community, we were able to build an outstanding venue out there. And we just revitalized the posts under our commander. We had to remove the World War I barracks that we had, because they were a fire hazard. I mean, it was just, and the ceilings were like, too low. I mean, anybody who wore a hat would break all the lights when they walked through. We took down the displays while we did the renovation, and we haven't put them back up yet, because the post is named after Gene Ramirez. He was killed on November 10th in 2004 at Fallujah. His father and mother still attend the post. His father comes over there. He used to be an active member. Of course he's older. He's not just a member now, but he comes to all the meetings. His mother's there. But like I said. All of us, the Hernandez, the Garza, the Casillas, we're all been there. All my uncles and have been members, commanders, everything else like that in that post.
So, in answer to your question, whenever we are completely done with the post, what we are going to do is in the front of the post, we are going to have a memorial marble wall. And we are going to start by putting names of all the members we've had throughout the entire years, to where that revitalization of that post will start right there with the historical marker, and it's going to be set there for however many years. So anybody that's a member of the American Legion and in their passing, they will get their name on that wall. So we're going to try to do black marble.
And is this mostly for men only? Is this a men club only?
No. If you serve and you're a female, you're still a veteran.
Yeah. If you serve any time and have an honorable discharge, you can join the American Legion. The VFW is different. The VFW, you have to be a combat veteran. But the American Legion, you have to be a veteran with an honorable discharge.
And then you can hold two memberships. Like I'm a life member in Poteet, the VFW there, but my heart's here because this is my hometown. But yes, you can have both memberships.
Yeah, there's 23 in the 20th district of San Antonio. In the state of Texas, I think there's 500 and something. And then in the nation, there's, I don't know how many there are.
We actually, just history-wise, we found something the other day when we were cleaning out some old stuff.
we have a bunch of plate sales, we have a bunch of cook-offs. We brought back the barbecue cook-offs, the menudo cook-offs, cabrito cook-offs. So what we found, and I remember this, and this is why it's dear to my heart, because I remember my grandfather, my dad, us going out there sometimes. My grandfather was a World War II vet, and we'd go to the barbecue cook-offs there. Well, we found a flyer, and the flyer was for a brisket plate with all the fixings, you know, you name it, for 75 cents. So my first vice commander, Mr. Steve Garcia, is like, should we honor this price next time? Yes, yes.
My name is Steve Garcia, I'm the first vice commander. I'm probably the newest, well, I am the newest out of these guys. I've been here about 2.5 years now. And I just really fell in with the American Legion and the veterans with what they were already doing. And I have twin daughters that graduated from Somerset. They were recipients of a scholarship from the American Legion, and they're now sophomores at the University of Texas in Austin. So that's what drew me in. I wasn't born in Somerset, I live off of Highway 16, but I did come to Somerset since the 4th grade, so I've been here for a long time. And I graduated from here, and all my kids graduated from here. So I'm just trying to give back to the community, see what these guys are doing, and really appealed to me.
That's great.
So hopefully we can move forward doing better things.
So he's at his piece.
That story, you have to say.
You historian, but I haven't learned too much about the post yet because I'm trying to find out, but I found a lot of history here. That's like how I kept reading this and then,
Yes, Peggy's the one that does all of that. So thanks to her.
Stupid question.
Yes.
The American Legion, does that mean if you're in any kind of military, American military?
Any branch, ma'am, and we also take foreign, like the SALs.
The allies.
Yeah, allies, any foreign allies, we take them as well. And so we actually have a member, his mother served in the, he's a SAL, his mother served in the British Army, and he's a member. There's American, Sons of the American Legion.
But the website will refer you to the national, and then if you go over there and apply with them, you're a member at large. But you can also, I mean, once you're a member at large, you can transfer into our post. But the only thing is, they charge $45, we only charge $31. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, we have applications. Normally I would carry one with me almost all the time, but I gave one to a guy yesterday.
If you join online, it sends you to a ghost post. They call it a ghost post. You'd still be a member, you can walk in any American Legion. Some of them are members only. So it does benefit to have that card, and some of them that aren't members only, they have discounted prices for food, beverages, and whatever to say, you know. But yeah, they do the ghost post because they try to get people to feel it out, see if they like it, see if their hearts are there, because it does hurt the post individually whenever you join and you don't renew. It makes our numbers go down, and we don't get the 100% every year.
I can just tell you that I miss this organization. I'm not able to attend very much because of health issues, but I stay in tune with you like pretty doggone good with this crossing, thanks to
Thanks to
our
Miss Peggy.
Secretary Treasurer. But no, I'm the last Frank and Effie Hoffman standing now, and we don't have any more in Somerset, which is, I feel like that I want to keep my feet wet with what's going on. And I would like to hope maybe eventually be able to come on the regular monthly meetings. I got to get my hearing aids working a little bit better though.
That's okay. We can holler.
But
We would love to have you
appreciate
when you
the
can come.
honoring of the veterans. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Tell them about your service, Brother Hoffman.
What you do.
Tell them what you did and all of that. Tell us about your service.
It's a long, long story.
Shorter.
My first assignment, I volunteered for a special mission, and it only lasted 18 minutes. guess where it was?
San Jacinto?
My daughter was. Rest of it was in Leavenworth, okay. My daughter was a voiceover for the last Alamo movie that was produced. And
Yeah.
so she got myself and her husband parts in it, so we played in the Battle of San Jacinto. That was my first hitch.
Yeah.
I got pictures to prove it too. But no, born here in 32, graduated in 50, went to Victoria College in 52, met Lillian. We married in 53. At University of Texas, I entered ROTC, where I got my commission, and had a very challenging, very interesting 28 years in the military. You know, I had. There's too much to talk about, really, but
Good and bad, yeah.
I did,
We understand.
something that might interest South Texans is how many have heard of Master Sergeant Roy Benavides?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it was my helicopter company that supported him and the Green Berets when he got his mission. The caveat there is I left the company about 30 days before his mission, so I didn't actually witness that. But, I'm commanding a helicopter company in Vietnam. It was a assault helicopter company, and we put the people into combat and brought them out. We mentioned that one time when Curtis Gilliland, I think from Somerset, Kentucky, was here, and I think it was kind of like this. And I said, the real heroes are the ones that we hauled, because they're the ones that fought the battles, made the difference. So Curtis said afterwards, he says, I'm one of them that you hauled. I said, well, I love you, man, because you're the real heroes. But I guess anything else, I did have the distinction of being able to be a site control officer for the funeral of President Truman and President Johnson. Those were very sobering experiences. And of course, there's little spin-off stories of these that would be very interesting, but Johnson's funeral, I did cut it real short. I went to Bergstrom for the ceremony of putting the remains, Johnson, from the hearse into Air Force One to fly to Washington. Well, I got up there and there was no casket team there from Military District of Washington. And the colonel told me, he said, we're not supposed to do that because that strictly comes out of Military District of Washington. And I said, I'm the site control officer for this ceremony. We got to have a casket team here. That's not our responsibility. So my good Somerset training way back when, have a backup, whatever. So you have your joint honor card on both sides as you march the casket through, and you get them on hydraulic and put them on Air Force One. I got the first 4 people on both sides of that joint honor card on. I said, get rid of your rifles. I told them, I've never led a casket team before, but we'll do it if the casket team doesn't show up in the motorcade. Well, Murphy's Law didn't show up. Transportation didn't show up, so we did. We put him in in Air Force One. Nobody knew the difference between us and the MDW casket team, except one colonel who was there from Washington, and he noticed I didn't have my white pistol belt on and a few other things. And, he didn't say it, but we put Johnson in, I think, head first, and we're supposed to put him in feet first. But not too many people knew that. But no, that was interesting. My last assignment was at the language school in San Antonio for 5 years. So just all in between there was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. You had fun with it. Bad days and good days. Thank you, sir.
When I went to Korea in '61, we had a 3-week-old daughter, had 5- and 6-year-old children, and I was gone for 1 year. And they have to handle everything.
Yeah.
And especially when the husband is in harm's way. If you've ever seen the movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young with Mel Gibson,
Yes, great movie.
I can't hardly believe what I saw in there, but at Fort Benning, wives were delivered telegrams with a taxi cab to say that their husband was just killed in Vietnam. Well, that changed pretty soon after that, but wives have to go through an awful lot. Even peacetime, they have to put up with a lot. So,
Every 3 years, my wife thinks it's time to move.
I believe you. She's in the habit.
he was on the battleship Alabama during World War II, and he became a navigator. He was a quartermaster, navigator, and he steered the battleship Alabama during World War II. Of course, there was a big typhoon that tore up the Pacific Fleet one time, sunk 2 ships, warships, and he had to steer that thing during most of that. But back to Admiral Byrd, he boarded the Alabama, I don't know, so many months before the war was over, recruiting for his exploration of the South Pole. And he saw what Alf had been doing and everything. He was quite impressed to try to get him to join his South America, Antarctica exploration. And Adolf said, no, I don't, I'm going to go back to Somerset. Where's that? That was South Texas. He said, I'll name an island after you. Admiral Byrd promised him that. I joked about it. I said, well, when it melts, it might be disappeared, but anyway. But he said, I'll give you a quarter at the Naval Academy. He again pulled the Davy Crockett saying, heck with that, I am going back to Texas. You know?
That's good.
No, he had quite a career then. Too.
Full name is Melton Leon Smoot. I've always been called Leon here in South Texas. I graduated from Somerset, and with all the knowledge that we had from doing peanuts down in the blackjacks and this and that, well, the Navy said that they wanted me, you know? And so that was all that nautical experience that I had.
Insane.
I went into the Navy, and in '62, I stayed until '82. I enjoyed the Navy. I enjoyed the people that I was with. You might say the camaraderie, the sincerity, I missed that. And I think you probably can talk to several service people, and they'll probably tell you the same thing. I saw Mr. Hoffman at a funeral a couple of years ago. You know, there's a lot of connections between one service and another service throughout the 20 years. I've known this gentleman right here. His name is Robert Hicks. It used to be Robert Hicks. They changed it to Bob Hicks for some reason or other. So you can't do that.
Shorten everything.
Yeah, shorten it up. And so.
I think his wife did that probably.
And so, periodically, we met and seen each other throughout the years. It might be a couple of years this way, a couple of years that way, but very interesting. You learn a lot, and a lot of people say, "Nah, that never happened. No, you didn't do this, you didn't do that." But I think that you talk to the veterans, and they'll probably realize, "Yep, that was done, and that was accomplished." I'm credited with 5 tours in Nam, and I was blessed with support and with people that was more or less mentors, I guess is what you would say. And you find that in probably all the services. I really miss it. In the field that I was in the Navy, I was in EOD, and EOD supports the Secret Service agency. when they don't have enough personnel to protect or during the campaigns and this and that, since there's so many people that are campaigning just like now. And so you get orders to go to support or meet agent such and such, and so you have op immediate orders, and so that's what you go. You usually take your team, and especially anything around water, that's what we were doing. My last detachment was up in Brunswick, Maine, and so I had a lot to do with Kennebunkport and with Bush, and I found him and his family to be just great. I cannot speak more highly of that family. And also been around Reagan, been around the younger Kennedy, Bobby, is it? Yeah. Yeah, Nixon, and it's just you get orders, and you need to go support and give them whatever protection you possibly can. And with us, it was always basically, not always, but mostly around water. And then, but if they're not around water and they're going to go somewhere else, well then you stay aboard until their routing is over, and then you go back and play catch up with your other duties. But that's very interesting. It was. There would be times that I guess any of us could probably take up the whole hour.
Yeah.
Talking about, certain years of our careers. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
My friend lives in Victoria. This is Marine Cap. He gave it to me a couple years ago. David Jenkins. He's from Uvalde. He joined the service for the Marines in '66 to take care of his family. So he went to radio pack in Vietnam. He was there for 6 months, and something happened back home, so he had to come back home to take care of his family. He said, they're torture. He just, Vietnam, he said, you don't want nothing to do with it. He said, it's hard, and you really, first you gotta duck the bullets, because it's constantly a headache. So we went to Houston in '72 to work for Ellie Myers Hotline, and we slept in the same room at the Viet from he coming back from the Marines. And I wake up at night several times, he just beating the heck out of me. I said, what the heck are you doing? Well, I thought you were Vietnamese. I said, no, I'm your best friend. He said, with bad dreams. And I went into the Army. I went 6 weeks of basic training, so they give me an Article A, a medical discharge. And I asked to stay, but they said no. So I went to work for HP Factory, and I helped set all the rooms on the Plaza del Rio, downtown. And I'm 73 years old, and I went to work there when I was 19 and a half.
And we had a short.
And I thank you soldiers, thank all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a baby brother that served in the Navy, that we have a little brother named Philip. He served in the Navy.
Okay.
I have a daughter that served in the Army,
Oh.
and right now she's using her GI Bill to finish her education in Dallas. So that's my daughter, and my husband was in the Marines. I wanted to mention those 3 people.
They couldn't make it.
And
Well, I'm Robert Hicks, Bob Hicks now, as Leon said. I've known Leon. Leon is the first person outside of my family I can remember meeting down in the Blackjacks. So we grew up together from 1st grade to 12th grade. Kind of had a parallel career early on I went into the Air Force in 1963, went into nuclear weapons, worked the Minuteman program in South Dakota for 3 years, and while I was there, the interesting thing that happened that probably caused me to stay in the military, or they tried to keep me in the military. We had a warhead blow off the top of a missile, and at the time, the EOD people, or EOD guys, hadn't trained on the program yet. So I went down and did the reconnaissance on the damage done to the warhead and developed a plan on how to get it out. And I was a two-strapper at the time, so they didn't appreciate a lot of the input that I had, but they followed it anyway. And then I went into EOD about 6 months before you did, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we were home on leave, and I asked him where he had been. He said, been in Maryland. So there wasn't many Navy bases in Maryland, so I figured it must have been an EOD. That's where I started my associations with presidents and vice presidents. I think my first detail was with Agnew, whenever I was on Guam. Most of my Vietnam time was in Guam, recovering B-52s coming back over target. They would bring bombs back that didn't fall. They would release them, and they would release them armed, but maybe the bottom bomb on a stack of 4 would fail to release, so the rest of them released on top of it. So whenever they landed, those bombs went straight to the bulkheads. So my job over there was to defuse and pull those bombs out of the bulkheads and get them off the airplane and get the airplane back off the runways. Did that for about 2.5 years. And we recovered probably average of 50 to 55 airplanes a day. And there wasn't but 4 of us, and we worked 24 hours on, 24 hours off, because you had to have 2 guys on duty all the time. I did that for 10 years, and then I became a federal agent with the Air Force, and spent 30 years after that. After I retired from the military, I went in, they kept me on because I was undercover at the time, and I spent 3 years undercover away from my family, most of it away from my family, with the FBI, and had the longest tour of anybody in the FBI or the OSI at the time, and it's still the record of the longest undercover operation, but it was very successful. We convicted 22 aircraft, parts manufacturers and resale dealers that was selling bad parts to the military, civilian airlines, and very successful operation. Supported one other thing, the biggest protective service operation other than the president's was the Pope here in San Antonio in 89?
Something like that.
That was the biggest operation that we ever had as far as a protective service operation.
You might have mentioned it before, or might have missed it just now, but tell them about the thing that so few of us observed, your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame?
Yeah, this is a national award that he was presented at Lackland. A general came down from Washington to present it to him. Can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
The organization was created in 1949, and I was the 39th inductee, which means they don't induct anybody every year. I mean, it's pretty rare that they induct anybody. But I was the 39th inductee, probably the biggest honor that I'd ever had in my life, because it was like I retired in 05, and that was in 2014, 13 or 14.
Wow.
So that was a huge honor for me.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, a guy from Somerset. Yeah.
Yes. We have one more.
I was in the military in the late 70s up to the 80s. And I joined the military, the U.S. Army. And I was stationed for basic training at Fort McCullough, Alabama, the women's camp. And that was the last time, the last year that was actually being called Fort McCullough, the women's camp. It went co-ed afterwards. And then I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Knox. And I worked in the Fort Knox area as a patient admin hospital treasurer. Then from there, I was stationed in Seoul, Korea for the 121 evac hospital. And I was assigned to work at the hospital treasurer when I was not supposedly verifying autopsies. I did a lot of military verification of autopsies for soldiers that would bring them in. And you had to be there to make sure that it was being done without disrespect to the soldiers. And I also verify a lot of the Korean people, women that would marry the soldiers, they would kill themselves a lot. A lot of them would kill themselves because when it was time for the soldier to go back, they didn't understand why they couldn't go back with them because they had just gotten married and they needed to go through the paperwork, their visas and all that to be able to go with them. And it was usually about a 2-year waiting period. And if they had children, they could not understand why the child was able to go with the soldier as a dependent, but not them. So I saw a lot of disappointing, infants. Well, if I'm not going, the child's not going, the baby's not going. So they would do away with their baby too. I learned a lot from that because working with the military and being stationed in 121 evac hospital, you see people from all walks of life. And it's amazing how you appreciate being an American citizen living in the United States and going overseas and being stationed over there, how the lifestyles are totally very different. The restrooms are very different. You don't understand why the commodes are in the ground, inside the ground, and stuff like that. It's like, I had to learn a lot of different stuff that I just didn't understand why. My husband was in the military too, and we met in the military. And he was stationed, he didn't have it as what he calls the good life that I was stationed at the 121 evac hospital. He was stationed in the jet match, and he was assigned at Daegu, Busan, and right there where the DMZ line was with South Korea and North Korea. And he saw a lot of fatalities there that, was not normally reported or make it aware to the public what was going on with the military and the North Koreans. When you're in the military and you're, like in my case, I was a female in the military, an American in the military, and overseas in the military, these Koreans could not understand how I have so much freedom to drive a car and go wherever I want to, because when I got there, the first thing you need to do is get a car. And I did. I buy a car. I bought a car for $500, and I turned back and sold it for $500. And you driving in the roads of South Korea, they're honking at you and they're looking at you like you're a female. You're not supposed to be doing that. And it was the other way around over there, where I would see the construction workers. They were females. It was not the males. You wouldn't see them. It's like, hey, it's a female. They're females doing construction work. So the duties over there for women were still a little harsh, and that was back in the 70s and the first 5 years of 80s. But the people were great. I absolutely loved the people there. On the weekend, we would go hiking, mountain climbing, and stuff like that. And I didn't eat a lot of their food that I just couldn't get used to it. And they told us what to eat, what not to eat, and stuff like that, because you go to orientation once you land there. And I stayed at the Hyatt Hotel for 3 months. The military paid for it, but so I didn't mind. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. Then after that, my husband was reassigned to Colorado to Fitzsimmons, and I wound up staying over there. And I said, okay, I'm over here in Korea and now you're back in the United States and they don't really work with husband and wife, they're both in the military. You know, I had to extend my line, my enlistment so that I can go overseas with him, and then they turn around and send him back. It's like, okay, bye. But we wound up at Fitzsimmons, Colorado, in hospital, and because he worked for the medical field as a biomedical equipment repairman, I wound up having our first daughter, our only child, Crystal, at Fitzsimmons, and then in time, Fitzsimmons wound up shutting down, because we're shutting down military hospitals. But it was a lot of fun. To me, it was a piece of cake being in the military. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
My uncle, Don Shaw, that went to Somerset Elementary School here, he's a very young man in Washington, D.C. We have a pipeline in the desert here going through Africa somewhere, I don't know exactly where. And he said it goes in one end and it doesn't come out the other end. He said, can you do anything about it? You have a degree in petroleum engineering. Can you do anything about it? He said, well, of course I can do something about it. But he said, you give me the power and I can do it. And so he went to the office of the employee office and he wanted the name of every man that was out there in the desert that had any kind of experience working in an oil field. And he put them in charge of 4 men working on the line, on the pipeline, and put them to work. And if anybody here has ever worked in an oil field, you know how to put a pipe together. And they put them, and it wasn't any time at all that they were getting the oil to the troops.
That's good.
And his name was Don Shaw. And he grew up on Old Rock Road over here.
I was in the Air Force, I went in during the Korean War, and I was just in 4 years, so I can't tell all these stories they can. But I didn't go to Korea, I went to Fairbanks, Alaska, and was up there 2 years. And about all I can talk to you about is how cold it was and how pretty the northern lights were. But 59 below zero one day and the wind was 70 miles an hour. That's all I have to say about my.
Service?
Yes.
Mine was real short, just go in, do your tour, come back, out, gotta wear the Purple Heart. Just boom, 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 real fast.
And we're fast for
know.
you.
Yeah, because that warrior, there's just one people just in and out, in and out.
That's a great one.
As a wife, he just doesn't talk too much about it, but he had his story. He has his stories.
His first son, Army, second son, Marine, his only daughter, Army, my first grandson, Marine, our second grandson, Marine, and my granddaughter, Army. So all of us are military, most of us except 2.